Hi everyone, my name is Genevieve Noel and welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new here, this channel surrounds my 2020 goals and me reaching them. Today's video is all about my money goals and buying a house.
The only heartache that I ever faced was a need of fortune and a dream of fame. I took those empty feelings and turned them into love. It cheats time, it's the eye in the storm of the universe. I got mine. Where do you think that you will find your
So this may not be the most exciting sit down video ever, but it's kind of helpful for people who are budgeting, people who are thinking about buying a house. I mean, just different information. A couple of things that I'm going to go through. One are what our money goals are, how we're planning to accomplish them, we're hoping to accomplish them, what we've done with our house, how that process works, etc. So let's go. So first I want to start with the house, and one of our goals for this year was to have $4,000 for a down payment. That was kind of the point of that goal, was to have $4,000 so we could have a down payment. And since we're buying the house, those two goals have kind of meshed together. What we did is Gregory actually wanted to do this part kind of on his own, / he wanted to be kind of in charge of it. So what we did is we gathered a list of lending companies. Now that's different than finding a realtor. We first found a list of lending companies from different people who have recently purchased a house or who have purchased a house in the past and who they suggested based on pricing, based on how easy are they to work with. And I think we ended up having 10 or 12 people that Gregory ended up reaching out to and talking to. Now, for us, the thing that we did that's different than, when you're looking for a house, what you might do, we wanted an estimate prior to our pre-approval. Now, when they run your pre-approval, they're going to run your credit. So be aware that when they do that and they pre-approve you for something, your credit score will go down because your credit's been checked. And every time that you get a pre-approval, your credit score will go down. Because every time that someone checks your credit or runs your credit history, your credit score goes down because it's considered a bad thing. Why? I don't know. But what we wanted to know is if it was even possible for us, based on our current financial situation, to get a loan in the first place, based on estimates. Now, a lot of people didn't want to give us these because obviously they may be held liable for whatever they said. Gregory and I are not the type of people to do that, but we totally understood when companies were like, we can't tell you that, you have to run a pre-approval. And, it makes sense, but there were a few that were willing to say, this is not a hard number, it's going to change. But from what I know, from my experience, this is how much I would estimate, and they gave us a range. Yeah, it's likely you'll get approved based on this information. Whatever information I don't have, I can't tell you. And again, a lot of companies won't do that for you, but the ones that did, it really helped us to narrow down, okay, this is a thing that's possible. We can get a house in, XYZ price range. So we kind of could adjust our parameters for searching. And then we just narrowed it down between those companies. We also used a company that was willing to talk to us about what we wanted. So the company that we ended up choosing actually recommended a different type of loan rather than a conventional first-time homebuyer's loan. We want a specific kind of house. Now, what we wanted is a house out in the country, and obviously we're on a restricted income, right? We aren't making hundreds of thousands of dollars each year. So that's considered a restricted income in a household with two working adults. If I'm confusing, I'm so sorry. But what it simply means is the lender was like, okay, there's this loan called a USDA loan. Now, when he said that to Gregory, he was like, oh, it's great because it has competitive interest rates. It's only for houses in like the country area, like they have to be in a certain zip code / like in certain county lines, and you have to be within a certain income range in order to qualify. But the positive side of it, the reason it's there, is because it's 100% financing. Now, I didn't know what a lot of that meant going into it, so before we agreed to it, I was like, okay, Gregory, let me look into this, let me see, you know, whatever. So I went to the USDA website, like set up by the federal government, and I read into it. I looked for other people's opinions on people who had them or financial planners through Facebook groups, which is really weird because some of the people aren't informed, but if you gather a large enough number, you can usually get some pretty good information. I was also comparing that to the information I was getting directly from the website, so it was from the source. But essentially, what I understand from it, the way that it was summarized is, A, the interest rates are competitive, which means you don't have to have like a 4.0 interest rate or whatever, while everyone else can get 2.0 interest rates at your same level. Just because you're taking this loan, you can still get lower interest rates, you know, based on those same factors as if you were getting a conventional loan. Now, what factors those are, I'm pretty sure it's how much you have down and your credit score. So regardless, we would have very minimal to put down. We wouldn't have 3% to put down, which is what's required for a first-time home buyer's loan, is 3% of like the total loan. We could try and get it, but we would probably be very unsuccessful, just because that's right around 10 grand. Like, we'd have to get that in like a month, which is doable, but just not feasible with all the other expenses that we have going on. So that wasn't an ideal option. So it made the 100% financing look a lot better. Now, the thing that people really said about, you know, 100% financing versus like a conventional first-time home buyer's loan was two things. One, the PMI is always applied to a 100% financing loan, such as a USDA loan, whereas it's not always applicable to a first-time homebuyer's loan if you have 20% down. Now, what PMI is it's mortgage insurance for your mortgage company, for your lender, which just says if you were to default on your loan, the brokerage company, they could get back some of their money. But you're paying a ridiculous fee every month so that they're insured. You are not insured. Your house is not insured. It's an additional insurance that is on your loan that you have to pay for every month because you didn't put 20% down. Now, that's applicable across the board. However, Gregory and I knew going into it, we're not going to have 20% down. We can hardly get 3% down. So it doesn't really matter which loan we go with. We're going to be paying for the PMI regardless. Now, the nice thing about PMI, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise, is once you have paid 20% / your value of your house exceeds whatever amount, the PMI falls off. You get the house appraised, which costs you know, anywhere from $300 to $500, and then you send that into your brokerage company, whoever you have your loan through, and they have to take the PMI off. The PMI will fall off eventually on either loan that we do, so there's no negative side to taking the 100% financing when it's available to us. Now, the one thing that you have to know about a USDA loan is that you do have to have 1% earnest money, which is 1% of the loan that you have to have available in your bank account. Now, you're going to have earnest money regardless of which type of loan you go with, but knowing that we'd only have to have 1% down, that's all we had to have. If we have more, great, but if we don't, not a problem. Like, that made the USDA loan a better option. Whereas again, having to have at least 3%, not including everything else. You have to be in a certain income bracket. So you can't make more than, I think it's $94,000 a year combined, like your total household income. Gregory and I don't make that much. I'm just gonna tell you flat out right now, we do not make that much. So that's obviously like a plus for us because they're giving you more, because they know that, you know, it's harder for people with lower incomes to get out into the country, but they want country land to be more accessible. So that's also a really big positive for us. Anyway, ultimately, there were no real downsides to taking the USDA loan based on our situation. So that's the loan that we applied to get pre-approved for. Now, again, according to the USDA website, you do have to make sure that the house that you are buying qualifies. So you have to look into where it is using one of their search engines. They have a search engine that you use, and then, you know, if that address doesn't qualify, you can't use that loan on that house. Before we go and look at anything, before we schedule, you know, like showings or whatever, I'm going to make sure that it's a house that qualifies, so that if we fall in love with it, we can say, yep, this is the one that we want, and we know that it'll work with the loan that we have. Now that is a restriction, but every house that I've looked at so far, and I've looked at like 100, they all work with this loan because of the type of house that we're looking for. Now, to get through all of that stuff, loans and whatnot, once we decided on this loan and decided on our loan, like our mortgage company, we were ready to do an application for our pre-approval. So what we did is we sent in a lot of stuff, and we brought it to the loan company, the mortgage guy, the lender, whatever you want to call him. It was things like our past paychecks for the past month, bank statements for all the bank accounts that we have for the past 3 months, all that kind of stuff. I feel like there was another thing that I had too. It was like 4 or 5 things, right? So when you're doing this, you know, you want to be prepared, like, okay, I'm going to need X, Y, and Z. Have that prepared when you go in so that, you know, look it up. Just Google it. You can't be over-prepared. And if you are over-prepared, that is a good thing, because then you don't have to go and get more and then put it off and then whatever. Whatever, it's been 2 weeks since we've applied for our pre-approval, and I'm really frustrated with this process right now just because we, according to the USDA website, based on their timeline, which includes COVID as far as I understand, it should only take 3 days to a week to get our pre-approval in. For a conventional loan, you should know day of. It's been 2 weeks and we still don't know what our pre-approval is. Hi everyone, so I want to just jump in right here because this is quite a few days later and I'm actually late in putting this up because it was a lot to edit, and I obviously look tired. I'm very tired. I don't know if it's just today or what. But I wanted to jump in and say that an update on where our loan is. We have been waiting, like I mentioned, a couple of weeks to hear from the guy about our loan, and found out when Gregory called him 2.5 weeks later, again, that he messed up our paperwork and we had to reapply. So we weren't very happy, but we kind of decided to just go ahead and reapply through the same company. But we kind of made it clear to him that, like, if you mess anything up, this is on you and you better, like, fix it, essentially. So we reapplied Friday night, I think. Next Friday, we should know at the latest. I'm really hoping that we know a little bit earlier in the week, but we should have the status of our application known for us by Friday, which is the day after Thanksgiving. Sorry, baby movement. So just wanted to pop in and update you guys because that was really frustrating and I could talk about it a lot, but I'm not going to. Just gonna move on. So that part is really frustrating, and I'm really trying to get Gregory to, like, contact the guy and be like, okay, you need a better explanation than COVID is slowing things down. No, obviously something is not happening because there's no reason that it should have taken this long for a pre-approval. However, once we get a pre-approval, we will be able to start going to look at houses. Now, the reason that we did this process in this order is because we did, as soon as we found a lender, we also found a realtor that we wanted and liked and decided to go with. And he was the one that suggested, you know, get your pre-approval and then we'll look at houses, so that you know you're pre-approved for the money, so you know how much about that you can put down or you can offer for a house, so you don't fall in love with a house and then have to lose it because you haven't done your pre-approval yet, etc. Once we do that, we can start looking at houses. And I know I've mentioned that briefly in other videos, but that's kind of like where we are right now. If you're interested in more of, like, talking about, like, adult things like loans and stuff and finding realtors, let me know and I will, you know, answer more questions about it, because this definitely isn't something that we're taught, and unless we have the experience or know someone who does have the experience, you can easily, like, not know things or be taken advantage of or whatever. And I'd love to be a resource for you if you want. So now the next goal that I'm going to talk about is the getting out of debt goal that Gregory and I have. Now, a couple of things are taking precedence over this currently, simply because baby. My insurance is absolutely horrible, and I tried to get on Gregory's insurance because it would have saved us $2,000 in the long run, like a little less than $2,000, but right around $2,000 in the long run. And I couldn't because their enrollment period was in July, and I didn't know that. And now they won't let us in because the life event doesn't technically take place till the child's actually born. Now the way that it works is it's a little over $6,000 deductible, but we're hoping to make the best of it. God will provide. That is, taking precedence. And then obviously the house, which we have to have 1% down on, just like with everything, at least $3,000. So what is our plan to do that? Let me tell you. So first of all, Gregory's working 2 jobs. I am also working 2 jobs. Part of the reason that Gregory started working 2 jobs is because we had to back pay a lot of bills. We were financially stable, and then things happened, and we moved, and life happened, and I didn't have a job, and so many things. We are now caught up on everything that we were back paying, and we're actually able to be ahead a little bit, which now allows us to look towards, okay, what upcoming expenses do we have? For example, the baby, the house. Really important things that we have to pay for. Gregory has a continuous salary that pays for all of our expenses every month. It's good, including what he makes hourly at the bar and what he makes with his job. It covers all of our expenses. So all the tips that he makes at the bar and everything from my 2 jobs is looked at as not extra money, but the money for those extra things. I work a commission job primarily. I also work for a company doing product descriptions. If you want to know about that, I'll explain a little bit more. But as much as I want to be working 20 to 17 hours a week, I was not there the past 2 paychecks. So I was or pay periods. Because life is hard, and I hadn't adjusted to it yet, and I just couldn't do it. But I'm working on that a little bit more. I also work a primarily commissions-based job. So my primary employment is commissions-based. Exclusively. It's exclusively commissions. Which is great in some cases and not so great in other cases. I have, in order to make money, I have to make sales. In the past 2 weeks, I made over $1,000, which is what I was making at my other job. And it's totally different. They're not super comparable, but it's at least what I was making before. So it's worth it for me to be here, even if I have a bad week. But that being said, the more effort I put into it, the more I can, get out of it, because when you're doing more, you're getting more, just by sheer numbers. That's kind of the way that my job works. I'm good at what I do as long as I can get people to, talk to me, which I can usually do as long as I'm working towards it. So I have a whole calendar that I'm not going to show you right now that for every single expense and thing that we want to pay for, if I were to, in the next 8 paychecks, so by the end of the year, want to pay that, which, by the way, is $22,000. Okay? It's a large number, but it'd be doable if I brought home about $2,900 a week in my jobs combined. Now, that's a huge number. People don't make that much a week. It is possible for me to do. A lot of my coworkers do it, and they've been there only a little bit longer than me. It's just, again, me putting in more effort and trying harder, because I could be trying harder. But that's kind of our goal right now, focus on Gregory's wages being to take care of us, and then all my wages, all the effort I put in is, paying for our baby to be born, paying for our family to have a house, paying off bills and debt, and those kind of goals. I hope that this was helpful or gave an explanation. Buying a house for the first time is a really difficult process. If you have no idea what you're doing, it's super scary and super confusing, and you're what do I even go with? How can people take advantage of me? Am I getting a good interest rate? What does that even mean? What is PMI? so confused. Life is hard. Okay, ultimately, life is hard. But, you know, we're a community, we help each other, and if that's giving advice or whatever, it's a great thing to have. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have more questions, like specific questions, or want to hear something, or just want more videos about this kind of crap, comment down below because I'd love to hear about it and I want to know what you want to know so that I can tell you. Otherwise, don't forget to like and subscribe so you can get notifications for when more videos come out. Next week's video, I'm going to tell you right now, is a pretty hilarious video and I am super duper looking forward to it. So stay tuned.
Love, Genevieve.